Well, you see, that's the whole point, is the word lie needs to be defined. Sometimes not telling the truth, all of the truth, is your moral obligation. And you have a moral obligation to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth at all times to anyone who asks you. You would say, that's not in the Bible. The moral thing to do is for me not to tell you. You ain't getting nothing out of me. Those issues relating to whether you have a moral obligation to tell the whole truth at all times to everyone, that needs to be answered by pointing out you don't. You do not owe them the truth. And see, that's another fallacy. People run around thinking life is just, and they run around thinking you owe the truth to everyone. You don't. That's what the Bible teaches.
That was from Morey's available audio tape from the REF, catalog number J54.
If someone tells you ahead of time that they don't believe that it's wrong to lie, can you believe them for anything they say after that? If someone tells you they believe it's all right to lie if they get in a pinch, how can you believe them anyway? At any time.
This scheme that Morey and REF have used is a scheme to raise money through a fraudulent accusation that's been made. The fraudulent accusation being made that you all have looted ministry funds and embezzled money, which he has never even bothered to make any charges like that to the agencies, the law enforcement agencies that are really responsible.
Well, let's take an example. They mentioned in their letters that we refused full accountability, we've ignored their request and all this type of stuff. Gary, do you have somewhere on this desk that certified letter we mailed to them? That was mailed to the REF, Morey, the executive director. Now, if you can hold that up for the camera to look at. This was a certified letter that we mailed to Morey for a response. There it is. Yeah, that's, they can see it on the monitor at home. And you can see right there, it's refused. They don't even want to know what we're trying to tell them.
And Mary, what's that on the back?
And on the back,
the
you know, there's you know, the
form.
Yeah, we got the return. If they had signed it and accepted it, they would have signed here, and this card would have come back to us. But since they refused it, see, it's right there, Bob Morey and his wife, Shermansdale, that's his address. They didn't even bother to open it up and take a look at it. And this is from 1994. In fact, the date on it, if I can see it here, is from September the 12th. Not long before he hit us with that urgent warning letter.
And that's typical behavior then when someone discovers their unethical and illegal type operation or whatever, and you start pointing it out to them, they will ask you to cease all communication. Now, I have in my files over here a fax communication from them in which they told me to not send them any more faxes. But they said for me to contact this Humphrey Perez. Well, so I contact Perez, and what happens? Mr. Perez sent me a letter telling me do not send me any more mail. So Morey and his group, they refer me to Perez, and then Perez tells me do not send me any more mail. So they do not want to receive anything that contradicts, exposes, or puts them into a bad light. They do not want to hear it.
I want to tie in with what we've been discussing here for the people watching this video as far as violations of the law and things of this nature that we've been mentioning for people to follow up on. And I wanted to mention that I did send a letter to this Joseph T. Slavitskas certified, asking, the one that claimed we had a secret bank account and was in Morey's national mailout, where they were soliciting funds and so forth. But it was short, I'll just read it. I sent this letter, and it was signed for by Mr. Slavitskas. And I said, "Dear Mr." And this was dated October the 3rd, 1995. Not long after that mail out went out, I had sent this over to him certified. It says, "Dear Mr. Slavitskas, you have made claims against me that are very serious. I hold you completely responsible and liable for what you have said. I also hold you personally liable for allowing your statements to be used in national bulk mailouts. I hope you are able to substantiate your claims with hard documented evidence, since your billing support services statement provided none. Please provide the documented evidence by mail to my post office box within 10 calendar days of the receipt of this certified letter. Please also provide information as to what your relationship to Bob Morey and how did you come to know him is. Please also provide information as to what exactly your business does, billing support services, what is its net worth, what is done by you in your professional capacity as president of this business. Is this your full-time job, or do you have other employment elsewhere? Were you hired to submit this letter to Bob Morey? Please respond in 10 calendar days. Your accusations and charges are very serious and must be dealt with appropriately." Well, it was signed for, and I've got a copy of it here. I could bring out the original, but this will suffice for now, I suppose. And then a letter came back from Mr. Perez on behalf of Mr. Slavitskas. So Mr. Slavitskas would not even answer my letter. He had Mr. Perez do it for him. And in Mr. Perez's letter to me, he basically says, "I am writing in response to your letter of October 3rd to Joseph Slavitskas." And he said, "Mr. Slavitskas and his company, at my suggestion, were retained by REF to conduct an independent audit of partial REF books and papers which you and your brother Gary turned over to the foundation pursuant to agreement." You know, it's always interesting. It's always partial. I mean, if you turn over papers and things, suddenly they always have to make it look like they're missing something. You know, like you're hiding something like this. But he goes on to say in here, he says that we're mainly like Judas, and that you and Gary stole money from the ministry's cash box and lined your pockets for personal gain. He's saying all these types of things. And then he says, "We know how you live far beyond your means and your paychecks, how you funded big homes, purchased stock, including Gulf oil stock, etc." And then he goes on to say various other things. But basically, he says that we cannot, he's not going to give us those the hard documented evidence that I asked for all these charges. He says that, however, you have the right under the agreement to conduct your own independent audit by a CPA. Let me know if you wish to conduct such an audit. See, what he said in there, that national mailout, is we had to hire a CPA and go up to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and then go through all these records supposedly they have up there, according to the agreement. Now, we haven't even talked about the agreement of the parties that was signed by these people, which we will do shortly. But what I want to touch on first, just briefly, Gary, and I think you have the documents to deal with this. He says that we funded, that we live far beyond our means and our paychecks, and, we lined our pockets for personal gain, stole money and all this stuff, like we were like Judas. But we purchased stock in Gulf oil. This is one of his charges in the letter. Okay? Do you have anything to deal with this Gulf oil accusation?
Right. Basically, back effective July 1st, 1985, Gulf Oil was merged into Chevron USA Incorporated. So Gulf Oil doesn't even exist.
You might want to hold that up for the camera. You've got an official document there.
This is a certification of merger. And so he's accusing us of buying Gulf Oil stock, which doesn't even exist. And this was...
and that's 1985?
Yeah, this company was bought out by Chevron back in 1985. So Gulf Oil doesn't even exist.
And it's even in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania where they're making the accusations.
Right.
They don't even know what's going on in their backyard.
Right. That's apparently where the company was incorporated. So how he comes up with saying that we embezzle money and use it to buy Gulf Oil stock is beyond me. It just seems like they're just grasping for anything under the sun.
And Larry, subsequent to that letter you wrote to Slavitskas, which Slavitskas obviously is just a pawn in the hands of Perez to turn his mail over to Perez,